Well, after months of rumors and reports about the casting for the Harry Potter series on HBO, and of course the months that followed of backlash from Harry Potter fans for the questionable decisions with some of these casting choices.
All right, guys, we're back and we're having another race-swapping conversation. I feel like this controversy pops up every now and then, and we have to unpack yet another character that has been swapped out for the sake of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And today we're doing it in the wizarding world of Harry Potter.
An argument can be made that the last beloved intellectual property left standing that hasn't been vandalized beyond all recognition is Harry Potter. And despite the setbacks, for me anyway, of the god-awful stage play that nobody really counts as canon and the diminishing returns of the Wizarding World movie series that largely had to do with recasting Johnny Depp and it not being centered in Hogwarts, the brand has not only survived, it's thrived. And it's done that through J.K. Rowling's supposed controversial but yet common sense statements on one single issue that I happen to agree with.
Because when Warner Brothers announced that they were redoing the Harry Potter series, that there was going to be a TV show on HBO and on Max, they promised fans, hey, we know a lot of people love these movies, but we also know they're not perfect adaptations of the books. In some cases, they fall drastically short. This is going to be an authentic telling of the books for hardcore Harry Potter fans.
That's why a lot of fans were cautiously optimistic when they heard that HBO was going to be doing a series that Casey Bloys says is going to be a faithful adaptation of J.K. Rowling's novels that will dive deep into each of the iconic books. And I said at the time, this has the potential to be the biggest series in the world by far if it is indeed adapted faithfully, and it all depends on the casting. Well, so much for the Harry Potter show. Because Snape is black, and the only question I have at this point is, are we still doing this?
No more. They would reference the original source material when it comes to the description of characters. Apparently, they've decided to just ignore that, I guess, in this casting announcement.
Sure, magic. Now, but since this isn't our first rodeo, let's just cut the BS here. We all know why Papa Essiato, who I've got nothing personally against, was cast. It was, again, based on identity over authenticity. It's the same.
Everyone is fucking furious about this, except for the people who just want to race swap every fucking thing in the world because they're truly delusional, insane fucking freaks.
Understand people being a little perturbed by this race swap, and it does feel a little unnecessary. So
now, this rumor floated around about 3 months ago, and at the time, everybody was collectively hoping it wasn't true, but it looks like it is. Harry Potter, Janet McTeer in negotiations to play McGonagall, have no problem with that casting. Papa Essiato, near deal to play Snape in HBO series. I have to say,
why can't actresses like that get their own characters that are written in their likeness? And it's not to attack people of color or to say they shouldn't be given opportunities. It is simply to say, I read a book once, and I was imagining the way this character looked. In fact, I was told exactly what this character looked like. And in the sense of Harry Potter and How to Train Your Dragon, there is a world built around these characters that is also hinting at maybe a little bit of a certain race.
One could argue that the last beloved intellectual property still standing, untouched and unruined, is Harry Potter, despite the missteps of the frankly terrible stage play, which most fans don't even consider canon, and the underwhelming Wizarding World film series. Hurt by the Johnny Depp recasting and its shift away from Hogwarts, the brand hasn't just survived, it's thrived. Much of that resilience, at least in my view, stems from J.K. Rowling's supposedly controversial, but, to me, entirely reasonable statements on a single issue. Statements I happen to agree with.
Here's a wand with a silencer on it. Why? But I ask again, why? Dime bag of pixie dust? Pfft, contraband. Wizard pepper. Unbelievable. Oh. Now knock it off! All the stupid ass, grab ass, and touchy feely bull.
Did you know Rachel Zegler was reportedly in the running for a major role in the upcoming Harry Potter reboot? Yeah, because apparently the studio figured, what's better than rebooting a magical world? Rebooting it with controversy baked right in. Insiders say she was being considered for a very important character. Not Hermione, not Luna, but someone completely new. The word modern kept coming up, honestly, a little too much. And then, of course, the internet did what it always does. Cue dramatic music.
Come on, Lois. It's the one thing I look forward to at work. It's the one thing I'm good at. I am to birthdays what J.K. Rowling is to now problematic wizard stories.
Perhaps Slytherin, or maybe Hufflepuff, or trans women aren't really women.
Wait, what?
I mean, the first two things. Okay, who's the next girl or boy? There's only those two.
And then came the Snow White incident. What was meant to be a fairy tale for Rachel quickly turned into a 7-act tragedy. It started with the interviews. Rachel walked in smiling and walked out leaving behind a PR crater. She famously called the prince a literal stalker and labeled the 1937 classic weird. Exactly what you want from the star of a beloved remake, right? Total contempt for the source material.
This is Rachel Zegler, who Disney decided would be brilliant in casting because, as Rachel Zegler says, her millions of fans will line up no matter what she does to see her.
When I win, the winged victory came to the Louvre in pieces, and people still line up to see her. And I can only hope that despite my flaws, and despite my cracks and my breaks, and there are many of them, that at every premiere and everything I do, people will wait in line to see.
But it didn't stop there. At another press event, Rachel told audiences she deserved royalties every time someone streamed the movie, a comment that might have landed better if people were actually streaming it. Instead, theaters echoed like haunted castles, and social media turned her quote into the least relatable meme of the year. Meanwhile, Rachel was busy cosplaying as a Disney executive during press tours, casually dropping lines that sounded less like film promotion and more like podcast rants. Competing studios reportedly started using her clips in internal training sessions titled "How Not to Market a Movie," the musical. And then came the now infamous Oscars moment with Gal Gadot, or more accurately, without Gal Gadot.
Welcome, Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot.
Visual effects push the boundaries of what we see on screen.
Their work makes the impossible seem possible.
With breathtaking ambition, they create magic that wraps its arms around our wildest imaginations.
Here are the nominees for Best Visual Effects.
The two did present together, but it felt less like a team-up and more like an HR mediation session. No eye contact, no chemistry, just two women standing 6 inches apart, but emotionally on different planets. Insiders swear you could almost hear Gal whisper, "I'm only here because my contract said so." And as the teleprompter rolled, the public frostbite between them didn't just go viral, it made Hollywood nervous. Bad press is one thing, but awkward press? That's worse. You can't meme your way out of a 5-minute presentation where your co-star stares at the ceiling like she's trying to solve a math equation.
The producers, far left-wing activists in Hollywood, are turning on her, and Disney has canceled all of Rachel Zegler's appearances on their media platforms. Kind of tough.
People are like, oh wow, Snow White flop. Who is surprised? You cast arguably the least genuine, most out of touch and disliked person in her industry, and her industry is Hollywood. And the bad guy is Gal Gadot.
Then came Disney's accounting department with a calculator.
Then came Disney's accounting department, armed with a calculator and a bottle of aspirin, with Snow White projected to lose up to $350 million. Executives reportedly started whispering about morality clauses and emergency damage control. Rumor even had it that Disney considered invoicing Rachel for emotional damages to their shareholders. Satirical? Sure, but just plausible enough to make you wonder.
Rachel Zegler just keeps making things worse with the Walt Disney Company. The more that she tries to defend this movie, the more that she tries to spew her agenda onto the general public, it's only making matters worse. Not just for Bob Iger, but for whatever is left of the image of Disney as a whole.
Behind the scenes, you guys know as well as I do that those executives like Spielberg are looking at that saying, Rachel Zegler can F right off.
Suddenly, Rachel wasn't just the star of a struggling remake. She was the before photo in every casting director's risk assessment folder. From Hollywood darling to cautionary tale in under 12 months, a full reputation speedrun. Her team tried a stunning pivot, blaming public misunderstanding, then media distortion, then Mercury being in retrograde. None of it stuck. The internet had made up its mind, And once Reddit threads start calling you snow woke, you might as well start growing herbs in the countryside and calling it a rebrand. So when the Harry Potter reboot began trying to tiptoe through its own minefield of controversy, bringing Rachel into the mix reportedly felt like casting a dragon to play a house elf. Risky, fiery, and almost guaranteed to burn something down. The decision to quietly drop her from consideration was never publicly confirmed, but studio sources claimed the words were good. Thanks were heard on a Zoom call, quickly followed by, let's go with literally anyone else. And just like that, Rachel Zegler's magical journey to Hogwarts ended before it began. Not with a spell, not with a scandal, but with the studio realizing that even in a fantasy world full of trolls and curses, PR disasters are still very real. Then came the silence. No tweets, no TikToks, no Instagram captions about empowerment through tea, or artfully filtered balcony boot shots. Nothing. Her sudden retreat from the spotlight came just days after reports leaked that Disney, allegedly fed up with the Snow White fallout, had approached her legal team about financial accountability. Translation: they might want her to help pay for the mess. And when that bomb dropped, Rachel reportedly hopped on a flight to Colombia.
What would you say to those who are just kind of overly critiquing the film at this point? You've worked so hard on it.
The timing was almost cinematic. Just as media scrutiny hit a boiling point, Rachel vanished, like a Disney Plus release schedule. One day, she was giving emotional speeches about modern feminism and misunderstood dwarfs. The next, gone. Her whereabouts became the most whispered question in industry circles. Did she leave to clear her head? Or to dodge a clause? Is this self-care or damage control with a view? Suddenly, the narrative shifted from Snow White's failure to Rachel's disappearance. Because when your name is trending under hashtags like #SnowWoke and #NoPrinceNoPlot, retreat isn't just a choice, it's a survival strategy. But if she was hoping the headlines would fade while she was away, the internet had other plans. Minecraft looked at the situation and said, hold my pickaxe.
Meanwhile, the experience at Minecraft goes something like this.
Chicken joe!
Okay, and the cops had to escort the rowdy teenagers out. The Minecraft movie is doing something magical.
The beloved pixelated sandbox franchise stormed theaters with a shocking $300 million global opening. By comparison, Snow White limped to $77 million after weeks of marketing, memes, and moral lectures. The internet responded with brutal efficiency. Side-by-side edits showed packed Minecraft premieres full of cheering kids next to Snow White screenings, so empty you could hear the popcorn machine sigh. One viral clip had a man walking into an empty theater whispering hello, like he was entering a haunted house. Another showed Minecraft fans dancing in the aisles, while Rachel's infamous "The Prince is a Stalker" quote played over the trailer for comedic effect. Her bold reimagining of a fairy tale was now being compared to a movie about block people, and the blocks were winning. Then came the animated body blows. The Simpsons aired a razor-sharp parody titled Snowwoke, the reimagining. The in-universe film featured a character named Rachel Z who bans the prince, replaces the dwarfs with ethically optimized companions, and delivers endless speeches about patriarchy to visibly bored villagers. The episode ends with Rachel Z melting down on Krusty the Clown's couch, while the studio execs sneak out the back. Ouch. South Park wasn't far behind. Their version went even harder, portraying her as a narcissistic activist who rebrands Disney IPs without ever reading the originals. When even Cartman says you've gone too far, it might be time to log off. These weren't just gags, they were cultural eulogies. Back-to-back parodies turned Rachel from rising star into case study. And behind the scenes, Hollywood noticed. Word spread that her name was being quietly removed from casting shortlists. Projects that once courted her were suddenly moving in a different direction. Translation: nobody wanted their billion-dollar franchise anchored to the face of Snow White. Producers whispered about unpredictable press energy and unquantifiable backlash risk. The verdict wasn't personal, it was mathematical. Hollywood has the memory of a goldfish, but the wallet of a dragon. And so, the fairy tale began to slip away. Once poised as the next big thing after West Side Story, Rachel Zegler is now a ghost of what could have been. From standing next to Steven Spielberg, to being lampooned by two of the most iconic animated shows on television, her fall wasn't just steep, it was cinematic. And yet she's young. There's still time. Hollywood loves a comeback story, especially one with tears, apologies, and a Netflix documentary to tie it all together. But rebuilding won't be easy. You can't just drop a Notes app apology and expect the dwarfs to forgive you. Audiences remember. They remember the speeches, the shade, the I deserve royalties moment. They remember the awkward silence on stage with Gal Gadot and the empty theaters. They remember the parodies. And now, the silence speaks louder than any soundbite ever could. Rachel Zegler isn't just battling a box office bomb. She's fighting a cultural moment that made her a symbol of something bigger, rightly or wrongly. To come back from that will take more than a new agent. It'll take humility, reinvention, and probably a few years out of the spotlight. Until then, Snow White remains shelved. Minecraft continues printing money. And Rachel Zegler, she's somewhere in Colombia, far from the spotlight, and possibly even further from her second act.